All right, it's horror month here at Mental Health in the Movies, and how can we not talk about the granddaddy of them all, Psycho? I was yesterday years old when I first saw this movie. I know, right? It's a cult classic, and I've never seen it, but we all know, tweet, 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 even if we've never seen the movie, right? So I think this was the first slasher film, or at least the first massively successful slasher film. And it was groundbreaking for a number of other reasons as well. This was Alfred Hitchcock's film, and he was called the Master of Suspense. He made his first film in the 1920s, and Psycho was released in 1960. So even though it's definitely old school, I mean, it's black and white, there's still a lot that modern audiences can enjoy. A good story is a good story, regardless of how old it is. Since Psycho has been around for so long and there have been so many deep dives into Norman Bates' mind, I don't want to rehash all that. I'd rather talk about sociology so that we can all see how society and the times shape how we live. Okay, cool. So the movie opens with the scene of an unmarried man and woman meeting in the middle of the afternoon for a quickie in a rent by the hour motel. It's 1960. And the pill just came out. And this is not the done thing. So when this came out, it was absolutely shocking. You see this woman in her underwear a few times, and she's having sex with a guy who isn't wild about her and isn't romancing her. He's kind of cool and matter of fact and saying that he can't afford to marry her. In truth, he just really wasn't all that interested in her. We don't know how long they have known each other, but Sam hasn't been out to her house. He doesn't take her out. And he's never met the sister that she lives with. So this guy isn't interested in a life with her. He's only interested in sleeping with her. Don't ask me why she can't see that. He's making it pretty obvious. This is a consequence of sexual liberation. For the first time, you can have sex without the threat of having babies and needing to be married to provide for those children because of the pill. The pill became a symbol for rebellion, independence, as well as the breakdown of traditional values. And this was a huge threat to the status quo that had strong supporters on both sides. Then, if we take it a little further, Marion steals the money that her boss gave her to deposit. In today's money, that would be $439,000. Who gives someone that amount of cash? So stupid. And yet he does it. And of course, the hussy who is sleeping with some guy is going to steal the money because she's a rebel who is only after her own gratification. Now, those are not my thoughts. Those are the fears of society at the time. If a woman can have sexual freedom and take control of her own desire and body, of course she's going to break all the rules and lead to the ruination of society. So if Marion represents control over the body and destiny, Psycho Norman Bates is the loss of self-control. If the pill is liberation, Norman's condition, and we can debate what that is, shows what it's like to be under someone or something else's control, which ends up being his mother. So there's this inner war going on with the individual in 1960s society between the desire for sexual freedom and the fear of what it all might lead to. Don't underestimate this. I have heard that indigenous societies knew about plans and did family planning, but never before in modern history were women that free. Marriage could be a ball and chain because children had to be cared for. Mothers had to bear the baby. They have the breast, so feedings children fell to them. Add to that the woman got paid a lot less, and it really is a financial necessity for mom to be at home. When Sam said that he couldn't get married because he had to pay alimony, that's another thing that shows societal values at the time. A man had a duty to care for his family, and if that family broke up, he had to make sure they were going to be okay. So there weren't a lot of options for the mother or the father. Where we go into marriage thinking it's about love, if the relationship doesn't feel equal or fulfilling, it can quickly become about power and freedom. So being able to decide to have children or not created a huge power shift. We see this with Norman. He refers to himself as a boy. He's dominated by an old mother who is basically a stand-in for patriarchy. She comes out when she sees Norman is attracted to a female. She judges, belittles, shames, and controls him over his normal sexual feelings. He doesn't have the freedom to explore his feelings or have relationships because mother is so domineering. And every word mother says carries the message that sexual freedom leads to ruin and must be controlled. When we find out that mother is actually Norman, or a part of him, it's easy to see how the two of them are reflected in the male crisis of the time. You know, who are we now? Are we the ATM? Are we sperm donors? By we, I mean the 1960s male. How are we going to navigate a world where women don't have to be trapped by children and are as free as we are to pick and choose partners? How do we deal with the idea that they might not want us, or they might only want us for a night? Shocking. The things Norman says in Mother's Voice are his real feelings, but the things he says as Norman are equally real. And guess what? Patriarchy wins. Hitchcock has a main character killed in the middle of a movie. This also wasn't done. The hero's supposed to win. So this was another shocker that represents the patriarchal punishment for sexual liberation. Now, Norman wasn't aware that Marion was having sex outside of marriage, so it wasn't about Mother's judgment of her. It was about Norman's desire for her, and that meant she had to go. She had to go because she was a threat to the old order. Marion's in the shower. She's the most vulnerable that she can be, and she's violently attacked by Mother. Everything has a superficial surface meaning, and there are always deeper symbolic and metaphorical things happening under the surface. Even if our conscious mind doesn't get it, our unconscious does. And if you think that the women of the 60s didn't get the message, I would say you're crazy. While women of the 60s had birth control, you still had to be one brave soul to exercise that freedom because there were social repercussions. Women are still called whores for having sex. We're still expected to be virginal and chaste. So the message of Psycho is, if you're going to be attractive and sexual, you either have to be controlled or you have to go. Mother wasn't going to let Norman be free to indulge his desires. She demanded strict control, and the more Norman pushed back, the harder she hit back. She already killed one or two other girls before Marion came along, right? So Sam was definitely a part of the struggle too. He seemed to be all for women's liberation because he was a benefactor. He wasn't promising Marion anything. He wasn't giving her much either. They didn't go out to lunch or dinner. They weren't dating or having any romance. This is a consequence of sexual freedom too. It's interesting because Marion was struggling with traditional gender roles and what it all meant to have power too. She wanted to get married. When Sam wasn't more keen or aggressive about it, Marion took the bull by the horns and stole her employer's money to give them a chance to get married. Really stupid idea. But in acting as the aggressor, she was taking on the traditional male role. But it's funny. When Marion disappears suddenly, Sam finds his man card. Only this time it's not patriarchy, but healthy male energy. Sam goes on the hunt for Marion. His mission is to restore order and right a wrong. If Norman is warped and psychologically fractured, Sam is healthy and whole. Mother can only exist as long as the outside world doesn't come in. Whenever it has in the past, she kills the person and shuts the door. She tries to do that with Marion, the detective, and Sam, but in the end, reason sort of prevails. By sort of, I mean that Sam does put a stop to everything, but he can't rescue Norman. So Norman goes full psycho, and he's lost to his delusions. His mother takes over, and that's that. So if there is a hero in all this, I'd say it's Sam. Sam wasn't a stellar boyfriend, but he was honest. He accepted the social situation as it was and didn't condemn Marion for her part in it. When he came face to face with Mother and all that shame, repression, and control energy, he stood up to it. He searched for Marion, went into the Bates house, and exposed Mother in the end. He is the symbol that shows us that we can move with the changing times without becoming destructive or being destroyed. We have a detective in this story, too, who is actually searching for the missing money. Since he believes Marion has it, he is searching for her, too. Arbogast represents institutional authority and control. He's like a police power, the courts, official offices, which also had to deal with the repercussions of sexual liberation. We often look to government to lead us and solve problems, but it's big and cumbersome and not personal and can be inadequate when we have personal or cultural needs. Not only that, but Arbogast is an investigator. We can't investigate, or we might find out the truth, and that's dangerous. So he has to go. So let's put it all together. First, we start with an oppressive, judgmental mother who dominates her child. She controls him through judgment and morality. She paints sex as wicked, so Norman has no space to develop normally. When he meets and is attracted to two young girls, mother kills him. Even though his mother was highly moral and judgmental, she then takes up with this guy who totally jacks Norman up. She's not walking her talk, and he doesn't know how to handle this. Not to mention that Norman has been her baby. It was just the two of them. Now this new guy comes in and takes his place. Like, say what? Mother kept Norman emotionally dependent on her and wouldn't let him have a life. If it's extremely codependent like this is, and then she goes and does that, what do you think is going to happen? There's jealousy, and it's an extreme betrayal, and Norman kills his mother to save her from her own sexual transgression and keep her pure. This is when Norman reclaims mother's body, and mother comes out during periods of stress. Then Mary comes along, and mother gets her. Once Norman is arrested for all the murders, his whole identity dissolves, and all that's left is mother. So this isn't some random psycho who just goes around killing people because he's unhinged. No, there's a catalyst and something that the killings are meant to achieve. All behavior is communication. Acting out is almost always just a symptom of the problem or a way to try to solve the problem. In the case of Psycho, the problem is the cultural shift brought on by the pill. Women can now have sex without consequences. They have freedom and choices. Mother is the moral authority that fears change, and she deals with it by repressing sex and asserting tyrannical control through morality and judgment. She also uses secrecy and violence to get her way. Norman is trying to deal with the conflict of having his own sexual urges and being a good, obedient son. How can he internalize mother's views and still be a good person? He can't. At first, he kills the temptress who is trying to entice him away from his mother and his goodness. Then, when mother betrays him by finding a boyfriend, he kills her to save her. It's not logical, but it makes sense to him. And once he gets started going down that road, he can't stop. So he kills Marion, then a detective, and he would have killed Marion's sister and Sam if he could have gotten away with it. But in the end, mother has the last laugh because she takes over and sort of kills Norman. So mother's last words are, "It's sad when a mother has to speak the words that condemn her own son, but I couldn't allow them to believe that I would commit murder. They'll put him away now, as I should have years ago. He was always bad, and in the end, he intended to tell them I killed those girls and that man, as if I could do anything except just sit and stare like one of his stuffed birds. They know I can't even move a finger, and I won't. I'll just sit here and be quiet just in case they do suspect me. They're probably watching me. Well, let them. Let them see what kind of person I am. I'm not even going to swat that fly. I hope they are watching. They'll see. They'll see and they'll know and they'll say, why, she wouldn't even harm a fly." And he's sitting there with this creepy grin. It's 65 years later. And what have we learned about sex and freedom? We're dealing with Me Too and sex trafficking of kids. So have we really come any further? How much of Norman's repression still lives on within us? You know, the pill was meant to free women, but Psycho shows us that freeing women can drive some men to insanity and violence. So is this a film about women getting a little freedom and going out of control? Or men doing everything to continue to have control over women? As you can see, looking at people as a part of their culture and environment can give you a lot broader picture and increase understanding. And I hope this gives you something to think about. I'd love to know what you think. Drop me a comment, share your thoughts. Thanks for being here. See you next week.